What did we learn?
I don't know, sir.
I don't fucking know either. I guess we learned not to do it again.
Yes, sir.
I'm fucked if I know what we did.
Yes, sir. It's hard to say.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And welcome to the Joust. My name is Naggy. I'm here once again with my co-host, the Raging Cajun, Mr. Liam Francis McNeil. Is that your middle name, Liam?
No, that was my confirmation name. I think, because remember, good Catholic listeners of the show remember when you were a small Catholic boy, they say, this is your name, but we're giving you a different name because of church reasons.
Yes.
They never call you that again.
You never see it again. It's a name. It'd be unfortunate if it was a preferred name. I don't know if you prefer to be known as Francis.
Oh, I like it.
It's
nice.
Mix it up.
Yeah. I've got a history of Francis in the family. My great-grandfather was great-grandfather Frank.
Frank,
short for Francis, I guess.
All those names, also the old-timey names, they didn't really sound anything like the original. Like, there were so many Johns, you called him Jack. And
that was always the strangest nickname to me. How is Jack
John?
shorter than John?
It's
the same. It's one syllable.
I think it's just there were so many Johns, it became unusable to have the name John. You had to have
But then everyone's Jack.
Everyone's Jack.
Yeah, are you Jack? Are you John? Are you coming? Are you going? Who knows?
Equal amounts of Jacks to Johns. Yeah. And then, of course, you can always supplement the next generation. All got the John as the middle name.
Yeah.
Or the Francis. But you can be Liam Frank McNeil.
And then, of course, one of the NRL players was named Jack Johns. The Johns brothers have just given up. We're just going to give you both.
Two of the most popular names.
Is he really John Johns or Jack Jacks?
Well, that's the question. Nobody knows.
These are the questions that the bigwigs in Parliament aren't asking.
Yeah, that's what
These are the questions that we need to address as men of the people, really.
Yes.
As the People's Parliament.
Who's stonewalling this investigation? I want to know.
It's not us. We're here to break down the stone walls. Like 1989 in Berlin, where they were first ones with the pickaxe.
It was us. The Hoff. The Hoff was there. Wasn't that a strange appearance? David Hasselhoff was chosen as the man when the wall came down after tyranny and they were climbing. There was deaths and destruction of the great country of Germany.
And bam, Hasselhoff.
We'll get David Hasselhoff.
Why was he so revered?
Well,
Germany?
He did sing songs.
Yeah. And so did a lot of other famous people there.
Yeah, I know.
And they weren't there when the wall came down.
He might have been the fourth most popular person to get.
Wouldn't you have called Roger Waters first?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
he wrote a whole film about it.
That's right, yeah.
Different wall, but conceptually the same thing.
They're all walls.
Yeah, we all made of bricks.
They all need them.
Yeah. I grew up and I had what I thought for all my childhood was a piece of the Berlin Wall in my room. My dad was like, we got a piece of the Berlin Wall. Like, you weren't in Berlin in 1989 because I was born in Bellingen. It's not near Berlin.
Are you sure it wasn't a piece of the Bellingen Wall?
Oh, they didn't have walls there. We didn't have walls. It was a hippie town. It was a sort of a commune type setup. You don't build walls in a commune.
You have a roof and just 4 sticks at each corner, and then that was it.
It was great. Yeah, a cabana. I was raised in a cabana.
And there's been almost a cabal of games going on this week, Lee. We've got. I don't think it's what a cabal is. I think it's more of a
nope.
But it's what is a cabal? Do we know?
A cabal, I believe, is a group of shady underworld characters / figures who are in control of things, but you don't know about it.
Well, we've got a bit of that as well, because rugby league players keep committing crimes.
Oh no, they just won't stop. For the purposes of us as a rugby league podcast that discusses news about rugby league and rugby league players, it is an easy show to do. Often because they provide us with so much news, mostly due to their crimes.
Crime news, we're a crime adjacent podcast because everyone loves a true crime podcast, but we've got crime as it's actually happening through the lives of the players that we put on the telly to play football.
And it's the truest crimes because they're dumb and they just broadcast them doing the crimes themselves.
They do. We'll be touching a little bit on that a little bit later with the likes of Brandon.
As we do every week.
Smith. But Liam, you and I saw each other at around this point last week.
And no one else.
At the very the famous Wicco, the Wickham Park Hotel, to watch a State of Origin Game 1. Not the result we wanted. I think we've got a photo up there of us looking not so impressed. But we
note that Naggy has no eyebrows.
None.
Listeners, listeners, if you cast your eyes to a screen somewhere, if you would. Now, we've been doing this show for a long time. I only just noticed, Naggy, last week, that your eyebrows are quite wispy.
They are wispy, yeah. It's a decent hairline, but they didn't, unfortunately, fall all the way down to the space above my eyes.
Usually you wear glasses, so the rims hide it. So
That's
I always
true.
just assumed that the rim of the glasses was your eyebrows.
Well, unfortunately, at one stage, the glasses, I tore them off. They were glued and they ripped off, and they've never grown back.
But look, I'll say there is not many places on this earth so
Yes.
wonderful that you can have a terrible experience
Yes.
in witnessing the New South Wales Blues loss,
But
also have a wonderful night.
It was a wonderful
And we did
night.
that at the Wickham Park Hotel. We had the wonderful Joust burger, which was a beautiful brisket burger this week.
Yes.
My God, the brisket tastes like it had been cooked for hours and hours.
They do
Amazing.
certainly do a wonderful job there,
Yeah.
Corey.
And the
rest-
enormous new big screen, of course. We
Yes.
were able to witness the birth of a wonderful new rugby league watching experience.
That's
we were
right.
kind of the guinea pigs.
That's right. A lot of people say the birth of their child is their favourite thing that they've ever witnessed, and we witnessed the birth of a screen
At a pub.
At a pub. But look, I'll tell you what. Every time that people are in a hospital, they talk about the greatest moment in their life being the birth of a child. I think that everyone would rather be at a pub.
Yeah.
It's
A child, it's just another person. It's like you meet a person. That's not
You
a
meet
big
it.
deal. It's not a huge deal.
You basically
It's
met
not like
someone.
meeting Andrew Johns or anything.
No,
It's meeting some child.
Chances are that
I don't
child.
know this child. I've never met it before.
They're going to be very unremarkable.
Yeah.
Most likely, just
Terrible for conversation.
Just out of numbers, not going to say a word for a year. You're going to be talking to yourself, basically.
Yeah.
And they're not even going to remember it. You say, remember that thing I told you? They say, no.
No.
And they say, oh, I spent hours discussing it with you. They're a terrible, terrible company. Yeah. They're just, but Liam, not like the screen. The screen is like memories that are happening in real time.
It's concrete.
Yeah.
It's concrete.
And glass.
It exists.
And the rest. What's in a screen? How does it work?
Liquid crystal diodes.
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah.
LCD stands for? They don't use those anymore, though, do they?
Oh, have they come out of technology?
I don't know.
Technology keeps moving forwards, unlike this show, which stays very stagnant. But Liam, we had a wonderful time there at the Wickham Park Hotel, and it's definitely worth checking out to watch
So
all.
thank you to Tristan and Steve looking out for us.
Beautiful time.
We were lucky enough that we won some wonderful
Hats,
Tooheys new
yeah.
blues merchandise.
Mine
A
doesn't
couple of
fit on-
hats. I got a T-shirt.
Mine doesn't really fit on my head, but I'm persevering.
Yeah.
But Liam, we were blessed last week with not only one game of football to watch and supporting our lovely New South Wales Blues, but we were also watching our lovely Newcastle Knights play on the Sunday. Unfortunately, both ended up in a loss.
Well, as blessings can so often be, it was also a curse. So, it's hard watching one game of rugby league where your team loses. To watch two games of rugby league in 1 week and both teams you follow lose and a third team that you follow losing in the Women's Origin the very next night.
That's true.
Last week could have gone worse. It went pretty shit, but it could have gone a lot worse, and thank goodness it didn't.
But we're looking at the glass half empty or full, or at least some water in the glass. I always think water. Is that what it's full of?
I would assume so.
Anyway, so there's got to be something in
how
the
thirsty you are.
something in the glass that we can look
sand.
at. If we might be
Glass
half
half full
full
of
sand. That if it'd be weighty, I suppose. Besides water. Anyway, there is something to look a silver lining, if you will. That's also in the glass, which you can't sip out of it because you don't want that silver lining in your mouth.
Especially if there's sand.
Especially if it's covered in sand. It's terrible. It's a terrible glass of anything, really. But, Liam, we cast your mind back to last week.
Yes.
I know often with rugby league losses you like to erase them from your memory.
Most things I do in my life I erase from my memory accidentally. So rugby league losses are no different to the rest of my life.
It'd be great to look in your mind's recycling bin. You move that and just be like, look at all these things in here. Look at where your keys are, Liam. But there was a time when we said, look, the Newcastle Knights couldn't score a try against the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, and it looked like this might be the start of our the honeymoon period of Kalen Ponga not being there is over, and all of a sudden now we're into the real doldrums and we're about to get thrashed about a bit. We're coming up against the Melbourne Storm,
A very good team.
Yeah, and
well known for being very good at rugby league.
And we
That's
thought-
one of their hallmarks.
if we're losing against the likes of the Dogs, the Storm down there in Melbourne are going to slap us around the face and then kick us up the arse, up the bum.
But I wasn't overly concerned by that. The Knights' last couple of games against the Storm have been good. I think it was 2 wins from the last 2 starts.
That's correct.
And I had it in the back of my mind, and when the Knights
Of course, we did beat them earlier in the season.
Yeah, beat them early in the season, beat them last season.
Yep.
I was actually kind of a bit buoyant thinking back to the Christian Welch slander. When he slandered the Knights. He said, how did they lose to Penrith? They had no one.
Penrith had no one, yeah.
Penrith had no one. And I thought after 2 wins against Melbourne after that, I thought, we're on for a 30. We might never lose against Melbourne again.
It might be a bogey
because
side.
of the slander.
Yeah, well, we do love a bit of sort of revenge in that way, and we didn't quite get there. But I think 5 tries, 28 points, which is pretty handy for a Newcastle Knights side that's really struggled to score this season.
And led the game for a very brief period.
At points, yeah. There was 8 minutes there where we had the lead.
In a game of rugby league, that's 10% of the game.
That's true.
That is fully 10% of the game. We were winning the game.
I've always said they should stop the game after the Newcastle Knights take the lead.
I've said that too.
But it was a game of back and forth in Melbourne. The second half really sort of took it off. But then
it was a fairly close contest, an evenly matched game. I thought
you could say we went try for try. There was it wasn't all the way even in that sense. However, if we look at some of the stats here, we were definitely in the mix as far as we outran them as far as average distance every time we got the ball. We spent large periods of the game without the ball. They sure cracked us a few times, but then we returned serve.
Yeah, that's it. There was that sense of there wasn't a heads down after a try. It wasn't a heads down and everything's collapsing. We're all going to hell. And the Knights of the past would have folded and lost by 400 points, but they didn't. They struck back.
5 errors only after 15 errors last week.
However, the errors were immediately compounded in a number of cases with the Storm try straight away. They really capitalised on errors in a way that the Knights simply couldn't.
They also reminded us of a classic. The Knights. I said 5 errors. It was actually 6.
Close?
It was close. Where they scored with 2 minutes before the end of the half, and we think, it's a classic. Let a try in right before half time. But no, that wasn't the end of the last try.
There was another one.
But wait, there's more, and we actually conceded another try. Yeah. Was that Ian Turpin?
It was Ian Turpin.
Was that Ian Turpin?
Turpinston?
Was it? Well, I thought there was another guy that. But wait, there's more.
No, that was Tim.
That was the tall Tim Shaw.
Tim Shaw, yeah. He sold ladders on television.
It was Tim Shaw. He's a very tall man, and he sold knives as well. He was cutting shoes, all this stuff.
He did it with Chef Tony in the Miracle Blade 3.
Oh right, well I thought
great series of knives.
They would have been different. They would have been different eras. Chef Tony with his really fat fingers, and Tim Shaw was a huge gangly man. He was like Mr. Octopus. But it was a game that
it was my favorite James Bond movie,
Mr.
Octopus.
Mr. Octopus. We saw maps there.
Christian Mapapalangi.
Thank you very much.
The Atlas.
And my map Papalangi, and he's got a lot of ownership over his globes and maps. But he was, he didn't have a great game against the Dogs. Then he seemed to be dropped for the likes of Dylan Lucas to go in the centres. Now we've said before, Dylan Lucas looks like the kind of goods with the ball, and he came in a centre, but he scored 2 tries. Looks really good.
He did, however, show I think why they've moved him into the forward pack though, when he got absolutely burned on the outside by Nick Meaney. Again, Nick Meaney continually comes back to haunt the Knights.
Yes.
I think that's the last 4 games against the Knights he scored.
Yeah, he always plays well.
And scored first twice, I think. Yeah, he always plays well against the Knights, and he absolutely smoked Dylan Lucas on one occasion. But besides that, Lucas did a good job.
And I think that's what
come back to in our headwear.
That's what we were. It was certainly a game where Dylan Lucas, could have been found out, again and again, but he held his own and looked really good with the ball. And he's probably stuck in that sort of where does he want to be focusing? Is is he going to continue getting opportunities at centre, or is he going to remain in the forward pack? We noticed for this week he's been benched.
Well, I think once we've overcome some outside back injuries with a wonderfully exciting return in the number 4 jersey Jousters, I think we'll see Dylan Lucas able to re-enter the forward pack and focus on his budding role as the best second rower in the comp.
A lot of people, including us, Liam, were very critical of Jackson Hastings, who said Jackson Hastings and Jack Cogger are 2 very similar sort of slow, rounded men. They all look like they got no corners and they're all rounded off. Obviously, Jackson Hastings there with his monk on leave haircut. And we were really thinking, we thought Jack Hogger might be out, Will Price might be in, and maybe that might give our attack some spark. But look, I think Jackson Hastings for a return to form, like he definitely answered some critics there.
He keeps answering critics. I feel like this is the fourth time this year where he said Jackson Hastings has answered his critics.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if he just didn't have the kind of games to be criticised?
Well, just didn't have critics. Wouldn't it be great?
We didn't have critics. It'd be a piece of piss. He'd be brilliant.
Every
week. Would he maybe not be good because he's like, well, I don't have to answer to anyone?
That's true.
There's no critics to answer.
It's a real tree falling in the woods sort of scenario. Yeah. Will he make any noise? And he will because he likes to shout at people as well. He likes to get up in the grills. We saw a brand new debutant, Liam, this week. We've heard a lot about the Fletchers in the reserve grade, both Fletcher Sharp and Fletcher Myers.
And then you've got Fletcher Baker, who are up at the Broncos. There's lots of Fletchers all of a sudden.
It's like John. Yeah. It's like you want the John of today. It's actually Fletcher.
Do you ever go to Fletcher?
Huh?
Do you ever go to Fletcher?
Oh, no, I know it exists.
Made up suburb.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be there. It's just, they said, we want to build a bunch of cookie cutter houses with no backyards and just put them somewhere. We'll just put them in Fletcher.
We'll put them in Fletcher.
Where's Fletcher?
Oh,
it's there.
Yeah, where is that?
It's made up suburb.
It's out there.
It's out there.
It's out. No one wants
I don't like those made up suburbs. It's like we need to put 100 houses in a space that should have 4 houses, and then we'll just give it a made up name. It's a suburb all of a sudden. No, I refuse. I refuse to acknowledge this false suburb of Fletcher.
Yeah. Well,
there's nothing in it.
I went to Garden
Huntley's another one.
Yeah.
There's a suburb called Huntley now.
That was made. That was
out near Cessnock. They made it up.
Yeah.
I get, obviously, all suburbs are made up. Because in the past, there was
but they used to have more of a purpose for being there. They had an industry, like that's where all the people
That's when
went
Australia was strong, when we had good, strong industry.
Well, Newcastle's basically built on where there's a reason for this town to be here, so we better build a church, we better build a pub, and then the people will come. And then that's just how it all operates. That's all. Yeah,
and it's ended up one of the greatest cities on earth.
But what we're trying to say is a lot of these places, a lot of houses. No pubs.
No trees.
Few churches.
Yeah.
Might be one of those swanky new churches where they sort of look like a multi-purpose centre, but then they're actually like some sort of, like the ones they have in Warner's Bay.
A good church has to have a sense of dread to it.
Yeah.
You have to look up and say, is that gargoyle real? Is he going to swoop me? I don't know.
It needs to look like it might have been, like sort of reconstructed at one stage.
Yeah.
Like it didn't survive the flood or something. Like it has to have a sense of age to it. Like the one on top of the hill there. When you look over from Stockton and you look at the massive Anglican church up
the
there,
skyline.
You would be like, if Newcastle was a story about Disney character, that's where the villain would live. Yeah. And I tell you what, there's probably a lot of villains that actually worked there because of all the crimes against the people of Newcastle via the church system
and the people of the world.
And the people of the world. Like it wasn't just a Newcastle issue. But we went into half-time. We went into half-time against the Storm. 12-18, obviously conceding those 2 tries. We probably should have carried the lead. But then when we came back after the Oranges, Dylan Lucas straight back over again.
Now, were you demoralised at half-time with those 2 late tries going in 18-12? Did it concern you?
Yes, I was concerned. Yeah. I was definitely demoralised. Yeah. But then when Dylan Lucas went over in the 41st minute, I was thinking, hang on a second.
You were remoralised.
I was remoralised. And quickly, of course, just we'll talk about the debutant Fletcher Sharp. Suddenly,
he's not a made-up person. He's great.
Apparently, he's real. And, it seems to be the New South Wales Cup, or the Knock-On Effect Cup, the dumbest name in rugby league, because it's the thing you don't want to happen.
It's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. Yeah. It's might as well call it the penalty offside cup. Like it's just not, it's not doesn't sound really good. The obstruction cup, all these terrible things in the game.
Joseph Swali'i Shield.
Oh dear. We've birthed this debutant there, Fletcher Sharp, who looks like possibly if you bought Pappenhausen off Wish, but we just had David Armstrong a month ago. David Armstrong was coming into this side, and we think this is great. Ponga's out, Armstrong's in. This looks really good.
But the rest of the league looked around and said, "Who's David Armstrong?"
Well, apparently,
you know what they said last week? Who's Fletcher Sharp?
Yeah.
But those that know. Like I went down to the Central Coast trial earlier on in the season.
Yes.
It was prior to the season, in fact. It was that early in the season. It was before the season.
Yep.
And he was electric. He really does play a lot like Pappenhausen. Obviously, he bears the physical resemblance.
Yep.
He also bears kind of a bit of a spiritual resemblance in that he plays similarly. He plays kind of hunched. He's very fast.
Fast,
he moves
yeah.
a lot. He's skinny boy. He's just a little baby boy. He's got beautiful, long, straight, flowing hair.
Of course, we can only assume that Fletcher Sharp will play with us for the next 4 weeks and then be poached by a Super League side. Because that's what we are.
After saying no to the Sydney Roosters.
After saying no to the Sydney Roosters.
But that's the thing. We go back to it again. You know, that struggling young underdog club, the Roosters. They can't just get players. It's the bigwigs like the Lee Leopards, which we'll come back to, who are snapping up all the hot young talent.
We're simply a nursery now for young fullbacks to come through to be on their way.
Which is so strange because the narrative for so long has always been if Newcastle lose Callum Ponga, there's no fullbacks on earth. There's none. There isn't any. We've got 2 of them.
We've got heaps.
In the space of 2 months, we unearthed 2 of them.
Unfortunately,
both scoring try and debut.
Speaking of unearthing talent, unfortunately, the Melbourne Storm continues to do that with Wishart, if you will.
Tyron Wishart.
Tyron Wishart. There,
it was the making of a man.
Of course, his father was a pack of cigarettes.
Like you said, there's not many ugly rugby league players anymore. And so I'm glad to see that Tyron is carrying on his old man's legacy as an ugly rugby league player. Yes. But he was great. He's kind of never really found his feet. At Melbourne, in terms of what position, they think he can play every position. He kind of maybe has a bit, but no, he's actually good at them.
He's quite good. 2 tries against us, and we end up being the difference. A lot of people were looking to probably Jerome Hughes, but it turns out to be Wishart, and he had a pretty good game against us in round 2 or whatever we played them when we beat them. But however, now we do find ourselves now assuming that Armstrong doesn't get released at the end of this year, during this year. Now we have the Armstrong, Sharp, and then Ponga to come back in only.
What a triumvirate of men.
A matter of 6 weeks. So how do you solve a problem like a fullback? We're not really sure. And it's going to be interesting. Hopefully it's not like if you remember, there was a period in time, I think about 07, 08, where we were looking to replace, of course, Andrew Johns. And then we had Scotty Duro come through, Luke Walsh, as well as
Riley Brown, maybe. Or was he a bit after?
It was a bit before that, I think. And of course, Duro, Walsh, and Tyron Roberts. And we had them all at the same time, but then we let all 3 of them slip through our finger. The last one we grabbed was Tyron Roberts. And so hopefully that doesn't happen with the fullback situation. Of course, we have a fullback, but every other year we want to move him to 5/8, then he'll get knocked out, and we repeat the process. So it's good to have
the endless Lockyer. We've done the reverse Lockyer, we've done the regular Lockyer, now we're just doing the endless Lockyer. I met Tyron Roberts at the pub one night.
You told me.
We were at the Crown and Anchor. He was doing... He just signed for the Gold Coast.
Yes.
He was doing like $5 hits, and me and Sean Blakemore, good friend of the show, former Central, of course, where we had some of our debaucherous nights, we were sitting next to him, and he just struck up a conversation with us.
Yeah, it was
How's your night going, boys? I was like, night's going really well. Sorry to hear you leaving the Knights, but because remember he went up there because he wanted to play with his cousin James Roberts.
Well, of course, also we signed Trent Hodkinson.
Also that.
Yeah.
So
really, we let all those fall through our fingers. We left with Trent Hodkinson. God bless you, Trent.
With no knees.
But he was, his knees had really let him down.
Tyron Roberts, lovely fella.
What do you think about Davey from the Navy possibly leaving? Of course, we had to go overseas because he's from the Navy. And he's
being deployed.
He's $1 to be Man of Steel, of course, for the Super League. Do you think would you hold a grudge if he left knowing that there's a wall of Callum Ponga in front of him?
Having especially at his age, Fletcher Sharp's still young. He's still got a lot of time to bide. Davey's 23, which in a naval context is old. A lot of people sign up at 18, 19 straight out of high school.
That's right.
So I don't begrudge him this at all. Obviously, I'll be sad to see him leave, but it's not like a Dom Young situation where I hate him now.
No, of course, but Fletcher Sharp is much.
If he left, I'd bash him.
No, he's much more mercantile, so I don't think he won't be joining the Navy. He's
interested in the trading.
Yeah. Do we use the rest of the season to possibly put David from the Navy on the wing? Does it give a bit of pace, and we have both Sharp and Armstrong?
Well,
in the
when
same
we discuss
team?
hats, we are going to discuss a distinct lack of pace, and maybe that's what we could need. But I think the one thing I would like to discuss as well, Naggy, is I was very impressed later on in the game when the Knights needed a spark and a bit of vim and vigour. There was 2 large men who led the way, Leo Thompson, Jacob Saifidi.
That's good.
I thought towards the back end when the Knights needed this boost, it was 2 large men who said, we're going to act like large men and boost through physical force and aggression.
Do it. That's almost like what the game built on, I suppose.
Leo Thompson with another line break.
Another line break, and of course, Jacob made the line break against the Titans. We seem to be loving line breaks for our slowest players on the field. But if we're taking, of course, we take our hats off to a player that we think particularly well. It was very hard for me to go past Dylan Lucas in one centre, but of course, you also mentioned to me that the other centre, Dane Gagai.
It was a game for the centres. Roosters.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah.
Skaggs is just having such a remarkable season. I'm
He
so
is.
glad that, again, he spurned the offer from the young upstarts of the Roosters, the struggling, basement-dwelling Roosters, to stick with the almighty industrial powerhouse of the Newcastle Knights. But yeah, I thought he put together another ridiculous game. Looking at the stats line, 246 run meters, that's a lot.
Yeah, for a man that's 46 years old.
He is.
Yeah,
66 post-contact, 2 line breaks, 8 tackle breaks, and 2 hit-ups.
Yeah.
4 missed tackles ain't great. But yeah, he was superb. He's just so bustling and powerful.
He is.
He
Strong.
runs to hurt you. When he runs, he says, I'm going to hurt you with my physicality.
He does.
Of
Aggression.
running. Aggression.
Of course, when we take our hats off, we must return the hats to our head to a certain player. And unfortunately, this one's he has got this a couple of times this year, and this is Greg the Bus.
I think this is a discussion we need to have.
What do we do about
discussion
Greg?
we need to have. What do we do about Greg?
Yeah.
Where does Greg fit? What is Greg's role?
Unfortunately,
what is Greg's purpose?
Unfortunately, out in the wing, it seems like there's two problems with Greg. One, that because he's so, he's a bus, he's a long machine.
Buses aren't known for their speed.
Are not known for their jumping. And unfortunately, those two
Most
things,
vehicles aren't, to be fair.
They're hard-
Buses especially.
speed and jumping that buses aren't known for. But stopping, it's very hard to stop.
Yeah.
But
He's great in yardage.
Yeah,
But
yardage
is
is
that
good.
is that outweighed by his deficiencies in speed and jumping?
I think if they're going to be targeting Greg and they're going to kick to him on the fifth, and they just
They certainly are.
an end of an end.
Everyone's going to do it. Yeah.
End of an end. Even if he catches the ball, that's basically rules him out of the set. So really, you'd think with the thumb of Bradman Best coming back, that would provide us with the yardage. Or do you try to move Greg to the centres? I probably don't think so.
Now, with Bradman coming back, which is very exciting, it's very exciting, Joust. Bradman Best returning to the side for next week. He seems to be able to unlock Greg.
Yeah.
So I feel like Greg in
Two stout men
attack,
together.
two stout men
Yeah.
together.
They can-
I think will be a much better pairing. So I think we'll see improvement from Greg in attack.
Yes.
But again, does that outweigh the negatives to Greg's game?
And I think genuine pace from Bradman as well, but puts a defensive line in two minds rather than if you got Dylan Lucas, who we said is really great with the ball moving forward, but it doesn't have that sort of agility of a lot of the other centres.
So do you think we persevere with Greg, or make a little suggestion you just had about a fast man?
I think
perhaps on the wing?
but potentially if we've got David from the Navy and probably will be for life, I think if he's going to be sticking around before shipping off, if you will, packing his bag and saying, darling, I'm only going to be here for one more night, let's make this night special. And then he does that to 60 women. And then, of course, we've for the next generation, we've got a lot more fullbacks coming through. Potentially we do that. Potentially we can see that happening with Davey on the wing. And then Bradman on the inside, two very fast men. Liam, we're going to take a halftime break and we're going to come back and talk everything State of Origin as well as our upcoming game against Penrith. Welcome back to the second half of the Joust. I've taken my hat off, Liam, because it doesn't really fit my head and it sort of fights with my hair.
You have really beautiful hair. I've always said this about Naggy. He has lovely hair.
It's
just a shame it doesn't extend down
to the eyebrows. Yes.
It just kind of stops between your forehead and your upper lip.
The long eyebrow.
It's Charlton Burton.
The Charlton Burton,
Yeah,
that
great film.
classic film.
Yeah.
Liam, we came up against the Storm, one of the heavy hitters, and we said we said we want some more. We said that isn't enough for us.
Stuck it to him.
Yeah,
the upstarts of Newcastle.
Yeah.
The young Silverchair heavy metal punk rockers of Newcastle. I don't know.
We said, look,
That was tenuous.
We want the whole show. We want the next one. Give us the last 3 premierships in the form of the Penrith Panthers. Invite them to town and let's wrestle.
Let's wrestle them.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to wrestle a panther. I, of course, just as you'd famously know, I was a panther growing up, the Sawtell Panthers, and boy, can panthers wrestle.
Yes, they're wrestlers. They've always been wrestlers. Is
a panther just a black jaguar? Like, it's not a species in and of itself, I think.
It's a big cat. It's
a cat. It's a large one.
Found in the jungle, I think. It's a jungle thing.
And the Blue Mountains. There was always that urban legend that there's an actual panther somewhere in the Blue Mountains.
Well, there might be one.
It's around the Three Sisters.
It's a huge area. The ladies. Yeah. God knows what is out there.
Ladies love cats.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Scenic World of the Blue Mountains, Liam? It's sort of adjacent to the Blue Mountains.
No, but it sounds wonderful.
So they just sort of, you can go into there's lots of walks you get, and they take you down on various different sort of lifts posts. And
Is that the one with the
Yeah,
triangle railway?
yeah, you go right down
Yeah.
on this sort of like a it's
Zigzag
like,
railway.
It's like a roller coaster, but it goes straight down. It's really steep, but it doesn't go very fast. But anyway, then they drop people off, and then they just sort of say, "Good luck." Like there's no like expectation that they welcome everyone back, and there's just might be people just walking around there in the dark.
It's Burke and Wills.
It's-
That happened to me. Well, the wife and I went for a hike in Dorrigo many months ago.
Where's Dorico?
Dorrigo up on the mid-north coast, just outside of Bellinger. It's beautiful national parks, one of the most beautiful places on this planet. And we got there, and it was raining, and so there was no one there. But the park ranger saw us coming, and he approached us, and he goes, "Hey, have you guys like heard anyone screaming or anything?"
No.
And we said no, and he said, "Well, there was 2 people on the path earlier,
Yeah.
and now we don't know where they are."
Are you sure?
So if you hear someone yelling,
Okay.
like, find me. Well, like, how are we going to find him? And we met him again halfway through the track, and he comes up and he looks at us and goes, "Did you hear anyone like yelling or anything? Or screaming?"
What you've run into there is a serial killer dressed as a park ranger,
And he had
he's-
the full kit.
and
had the
he
full
just
uniform.
murdered someone,
Yeah.
and they screamed, and then you were the closest witnesses, and
Yeah.
he goes, "Did you hear anyone screaming?" You said no, and then he went back and killed the other person.
And then he came back and he said, "Did you hear anyone screaming yet?"
yeah.
And we're like, "No,
No.
we still haven't." And then he disappeared.
Yeah, that's
never
what-
saw the man again.
serial killers again,
Oh,
back
my
to his
God.
cabin.
Ivan all over
He's
again.
probably eaten them. So that's what they do. That's how you, and look, they're never going to find a body if you've cooked it into delicious soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the follow-up to Wolf Creek, Panther Creek.
Panther Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be careful if you're walking up that end of town, guys. Up there.
Do
in,
it. It's
Belgium.
wonderful, but be careful.
Be careful of people that say that they're park rangers. And look, we come up against the Panthers, Liam. We've invited them to Newcastle. They're way up there in third, but everyone knows they're very well.
In their ivory tower.
Yeah, no.
Up there in third.
No Mitchell. I was going to say no Mitchell Pearce. No Nathan, but they definitely don't have
Haven't
Mitchell
had one of them in a
Pearce.
while.
No, but no Nathan Cleary,
Yeah.
and we have no Kalen Ponga. We've
Yep.
both said, okay, we'll put our best players to one side. That's fair.
I think it's fair. That's
Yeah.
a 1-for-1. That's a like for like.
Yeah,
out. I think it's
so.
it's gentlemanly.
Gentlemanly. Yeah, say we will about the Newcastle Knights, but we're a gentlemen. But if we have a look at the side there, we welcome back the Thumb, Bradman Best.
Welcome back, Bradman. Aren't we excited to see Bradman back just in time to get 2 games in before Origin 2 team is selected?
I believe that's
and a
correct.
gaping hole in the centres.
Yeah. He's going to stake his claim.
Was this all a ploy from Bradman? He'll come back on the weekend and he'll have the best game anyone's ever seen, and he'll say, "That's what you get.
That's what you get.
That's what you get."
Fresh from a hamstring / lower groin injury. If we look at the Penrith
Mid upper groin.
mid upper groin,
Mid-upper groin.
yeah. It's if we look at Penrith there, they got they're still performing quite well. A huge win over the Sharks without Nathan Cleary, but then a loss to St George, who seemed to be on the up, and then a back and forth sort of game with Seagulls. But they obviously they came away with the win there. It does feel like we've got Dylan Edwards coming. We're still playing with him, coming back off an injury as well. He was. I don't think you could get closer to a Blues jersey than
he
Dylan
pulled
Edwards.
it on.
Yeah.
He pulled it on
It was-
for a team photo and everything.
He was part of the team photo.
Yeah.
That'd be one of those hard things in history. You'd be like, no, look, he played. He was in the team photo. Never made it. A little bit like Robbie Kearns falling off the horse.
Oh, I forgot he never made it back into the blue jersey after that.
Yeah, I think
one
that
of your
was-
finest moves, Wayne Pearce.
Yeah,
Oh,
team
Robbie
bonding.
Kearns and Brad Clyde, one of the best forwards in history.
They both fell
put him
off
on
horses?
a horse. Yeah,
Yeah,
Brad
yeah.
Clyde shattered his collarbone.
Brad Clyde sounds like a name of someone who would be on a horse.
It is a very horse name. It's a horse
Cly-
name. Yeah.
Clydesdale,
Yeah.
Brad Clyde. Yeah,
There's a
after
Banjo
horse.
Patterson poem about him and everything. It was Bradley Clyde.
Jerome Luai
And the cult from old regret had got away.
seems like he's really taking control of this side, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that scares me. He was good on the weekend.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
very, very good. He does some exciting things. And one thing, and this obviously we need to be concerned about.
Yes.
Interesting stat. In the first half of the rugby league game between the Penrith Panthers and the Manly Seagulls,
Yes.
there was 6 tries scored, but there was only 2 try scorers, and they were both left wingers.
Oh, I see. Do you think we have any chance in hell, Liam, of beating the Penrith Panthers?
I always say yes,
Yes.
but
Out
I'm
of
a
hope?
liar.
Grits? Do you think grit and determination might
Grit and
do it?
determination might do it.
Yep.
It's done it before.
Yes.
We've gritted and determination our way to wins before that we shouldn't have won.
It's a difficult road trip for people in Western Sydney because it's too short to get a plane. You have to get a bus, and then it's a long bus trip.
And you kind of got to go across and then up. You can't
Across
really.
and-
Can you go diagonally?
No,
For
that'd be going
Windsor?
M7, M2, or surely, yeah, and then straight up. But even when they hit the M1, there's still a long way to go. We're at the end of it. Yeah, they're hitting all the M's,
Yeah.
all the M's. Yeah.
We'll ask Gavin Morton.
The
Gavin Morton will know. Gav, fill us in if you know the ins and outs of getting from Penrith to Sydney.
If there were true, working class Penrith people, they would be obviously not taking the toll roads. They'd be going straight through.
Can't take the toll roads.
Down by, down through Canterbury.
In this cost of living crisis, in this economy, who can afford to pay for a toll on top of paying $40 for a schooner of half strength beer at the footy?
A bus is probably more on the tolls too.
You know where you can watch the football without having to go on a toll road and having to pay $40 for a schooner of half strength beer at the footy?
Where's that?
Wickham Park Hotel.
The Wickham Park Hotel. The Wicco. Watch it there on the brand new big screen.
Yeah, well, it is a home game. Obviously, it will be a sellout.
Yeah.
As it always is. There'll be 50,000 people trying to bust their way in.
It's a terrible situation.
Go to the Wicco.
Go to the Wicco. So you're only there with Newcastle Knights and Boys 4 o'clock on a Sunday. The perfect time when you want to have a few beers.
In a beer garden with a big screen.
Do you want to risk, Liam, not witnessing the Newcastle Knights beat the Penrith Panthers, not at the place you want to be at the Wickham Park Hotel? I don't think so.
Well, the Shark Island Challenge bodyboarding comp's on that day in Cronulla too, so I might drive down for that, but I won't because of footy.
Body what?
Bodyboarding.
Bodyboarding.
Competition.
Right, so it's not body surfing, it's bodyboard.
No, yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
Big wave. It's a very angry wave where people have broken their bones.
Cronulla.
Yeah.
Really?
Great.
Okay.
It's a good watch. Check out the Shark Island Challenge. Hasn't run since 2017.
Probably for a good reason. Liam, it's time for everything else.
Politics. Yes.
Rugby league. A lot of happening stuff in the news. Liam,
too much footy to talk about, not much news.
Well, there's some interesting things happening in the news. We'll start off with trouble in Tiger Town, I believe, where we have there's being, they refer to as unwavering pressure to release the likes of Lachlan Galvin. No, that's
shit.
Yeah,
Lachlan Galvin.
Lachlan Galvin, that's correct.
I was thinking you were mixing it with Lachlan Ilias.
That sounds the name doesn't
because Lachlan
roll.
Ilias was linked to the Knights last week.
Lachlan Galvin, like
Lachlan
it doesn't.
Galvin.
It would be great for a clap. But an 18-year-old player, we had a fantastic game earlier in the season, and then he had a pretty good one, and then he
I believe they've used a photo of him in the under 12s.
No,
here on this slide.
He doesn't look old, but he's not an old fella. He's got an.
You're not old.
Yeah.
You're a testicle.
You're a testicle. And what happened to the Newcastle Knights when Wayne Bennett left? We saw this mass exodus, and there was pressure also that the team was hitting the skids. Anyone with talent was basically being poached by other players, other clubs,
as is Newcastle tradition.
And this was really what I really felt when I saw this story. And you're seeing now the certain classics from Crawley, the man that looks like a catcher's mitt. It looks like he must smoke 50 cigarettes a day. More wrinkles than Troy McClure. But he's penning articles to say, but let's have a look at the sympathy for this young kid who just wants to play football. Don't stay with the club that's given you this opportunity to play football, that you've signed a contract at the beginning of the season. No, you must go to another club because you hurt your hand and they made you play, even though it was obviously your decision to continue playing. But of course you asked for a release early in the season, but then you decide to sign a contract. But please, think of the young boy, Liam. He's just looking for an opportunity. Sure, he can't talk to any other clubs. His player agent can. But sure, he can't talk to any other clubs. He just wants a release because apparently he wants to retire at 18. No, he wants to go to another club.
Now, Naggy,
a more successful club.
Naggy has just expounded that whole story off one headline there.
No, Phil Crawley he wrote a story about this.
But that's a Crawley thing. You could read a Crawley headline and just go on like that, and you're like, that is his article. That's what he wrote. He's a fool.
He pontificated about, but we must think about the poor blight of the young player that's only represented by Isaac Moses. Of course, he's a struggling player agent himself and wouldn't have any idea of any other club sniffing about.
Consummate underdog, Isaac Moses. That very well-reputed professional man of high integrity.
Never suspended.
Player agents, integrity.
Yeah, but also
two go hand in hand.
Also represents a lot of Newcastle Knights players as well as Adam O'Brien. So he does have an idea about where they.
He stopped taking our calls.
And now we have
Isaac. We need representation, brother.
The club the Tigers looking at their third spoon in a row. I'm a little bit excited for it because it means the Newcastle.
Didn't they already get three?
No, they got two in a row. Looking at the third.
They got three in a row.
Pressure on the coach, obviously, to be also marched on with the likes of the Parramatta fellow,
Bradley Arthur.
Now, because I tell you what, if you're a Tigers supporter and you're like, well, this has not only been a 12-year stint of not making the finals, but it's culminated.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
You got it? Well done.
in 3 consecutive spoons, and that's not what you want after 4 rebuilds and 4 coaches. You want to actually see some success.
And as you know, as men who experienced a 3 spoonsome, a spoon. I won't say threesome because that's rude. A 3 spoonsome.
Yeah.
You know, I do have a certain amount of empathy for fans of the Tigers.
Yes.
They've been the whipping boys of the NRL media for the last, God knows, what was 2005? 19 years ago? They've been the whipping boys.
Yeah. Well, they
the
last,
NRL media for 19 years.
2010, 2012, I think it was. Oh, 2010 was the last time they made the finals.
Yeah.
2011 possibly. Anyway.
2011, they had that great year where Gareth Ellis was the best forward in the world,
Yeah.
and they lost a preliminary final against the Roosters, I believe. There was a remarkable field goal kicked.
The Braithen Astor.
Yeah.
It was looking like this. It was going on and on and on that they must find success eventually. They've gone back to Benji Marshall. Tim Sheens is out the door after the 1 spoon, and then all of a sudden now
The job he gave himself. Remember, he went in with him. He went in
and
to
said,
decide what's wrong with the club. Let's fix it.
Yeah.
And he decided what's wrong with the club is the coach. I'm the coach now.
But apparently they're going to go through it. They're doing another player clean out. They've got Jerome Luai coming. They've got.
I think Papa Leahy's going now as
Papa
well.
Leahy's on the way out. It seems like
Didn't Brent Naden just recently sign elsewhere as well?
And Stefano is another one that wants to go out the club as well. It looks a very dangerous time to be a Tiger supporter.
They're in an eternal rebuild, which I feel like the Knights were for a long while.
Well, what the Knights did was crash down into the pits post Bennett and then slowly climb up. So we had, post Bennett, we sacked Rick Stone, we got Badiris in, and we had 8 wins. We were the Wooden Spooners in 2015.
Which that's the best, isn't that the best Wooden Spoon season?
We tied
8 wins?
It's a record that we've tied with ourselves from 2005. And then 2016 comes along.
Shit rugby league club the Knights have been.
I remember saying in the end of 2015, oh, well, things can't get any worse. We just got the spoon. 2016, 1 win, 1 draw.
Things can't get worse than coming last 2 years in a row, can they?
2017, 5 wins, including 3 in the row, but 5 wins, still another spoon. 2018 finished 10th, 2019 finished 10th, 2020 we finished 7th, 2021 finished 7th, 2022 we don't talk about, finished 14th, and then last year finished 5th. It feels like now we have lifted up out of that anchor that was dragging us down, but we had to have the skids to have that. If the Tigers are having the skids now, this is a bad time to have the skids.
It's a terrible time. Any time's a bad time to have the skids, to be fair.
Yeah, especially if you're in the car.
Yeah. Especially if you haven't got a spare pair of undies with you.
You have to stop at a service station, beg for a key like a leper, say please, and they give you one on a ruler.
It's attached to a milk crate.
Yeah, so they say, I don't know who's stealing these keys.
What are they trying to achieve? If they've stolen the key to the servo toilet, that's not unlocking anything else.
And then you get in there, terrible. You know, I wish you did in the car. Anyway, bad time to have the skids is now at the very, very end of this, Liam. And this is where the Tigers are facing. And now the clubs are circling around, the Vultures, led by Crawley and the likes of, and they're picking away at the corpse.
I'm enjoying Nagy's ranting this week. This is great. It's a great week for Nagy's
I
brain.
sympathise with the Tigers. I think if you signed a contract at the beginning of the year, you should be able to at least fulfil it. If you're playing...
Well, we all know, Nagy, the rugby league contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on, which isn't saying much because paper's cheap.
Paper's cheap. Yeah.
Even in this economy, as we see, mortgages going through the roof. Petrol's $2.30 a litre.
Paper's price
You can
stagnant.
just steal paper.
It's
you
everywhere.
just go to the newsagent. Just rip out the Sydney Morning Herald because you're not paying for that.
No.
With those shills.
No paper. The only thing good about the Daily Telegraph, if you keep
wrap your chips in it.
You keep one in the car when you hit the skids. Thoroughly absorbent. There is.
So Tigers fans, we empathise and sympathise with you. We both pathise.
And when we've got a team like the Tigers desperately trying to hold on to talent, you've got a team like the Roosters who signed the wrong type of person in the cheese, and they're trying to fuck him off. And
now,
a complete opposite.
The funny thing about this story is that I recall, Nag, and you will recall too, a few years ago, when he was playing for Melbourne, he said one funny thing. I don't remember what it was, but all of a sudden the NRL media jumped on him. They're like, "Oh, this is the larrikin rugby league needs. This is the funny, the funny everyman,
rough and tumble guy,
the rough and tumble fella." What they forgot is that rugby league players are idiots.
Yeah, idiots,
and
yeah.
so they just went to him and they're like, oh, yeah, you're funny.
Yep.
You can be the face of rugby league being a funny man. Forgetting that he was hanging out with the You Know the Rules podcast guys and the
Yes.
likes of Corey Norman.
Oh, yes.
And
Well-known rule follower.
Well-known rule follower.
Yeah.
And that's why the brand was called You Know the Rules, because
So
you
he-
know them and you're going to follow them.
Corey Norman definitely didn't, play a couple of seasons with the Parramatta Eels, leading them to their wooden spoon.
On $900,000 a year.
And also didn't go to St George and not only tank the club but make Ben Hunt look like someone who couldn't play football.
also on $900,000 a year.
It seemed like he was just sucking talent away from players like Mitchell Moses as well as Ben Hunt. And then as soon as he was out of there, they played really well.
He was Teflon at the time as well. Like, no one would criticize Corey Norman for being bad.
Yeah, he'd
It
have,
was
like-
he had such an odd career. Like, he wasn't good for most of his career. It's just Corey Norman.
He
He
played-
smiles when he plays, so we'll let him go.
He played
I
like
hate his
two
smile.
good games.
Yeah, it's a shit smile.
I remember when he broke his jaw and I was so glad. I was like, at least the cunt can't smile.
Was that
Most of the world rejoiced that day, Josh.
was that with when he was playing for Brisbane? Or was that
I would have thought it was the Dragons.
the Dragons? Okay, well, he just seemed to be like sucking talent away. Now we've got someone like Brandon Smith, who there's been rumours circling around on the likes of the Mole. They won't name anyone. The Reddit, everyone speaks out to say that
So he's
you know,
unnamed NRL star.
to say that he's got problems with a certain, managing his money, if you will, and then he's upset the apple cart there at the Roosters by borrowing money and whatnot.
Which he'd be one of their highest paid players. So
Yeah.
imagine if you're, say, an unnamed bit part player on $200,000 a year,
Yeah.
and you have multi-billionaire
Yeah.
and popular media personality Brandon Smith coming to you and say,
Give us
can I have 100 for the pokes?
give us a loan. Yeah.
Give us a quick loan. I'll
Yeah.
hit the Bricky's laptop, and then you'll see it back
You'll see it
tomorrow
back.
morning.
Yeah.
Don't see him for a month.
Yeah, never
But
see him again. But also, then within that, there was a video of him before Magic Round, looking. We have the image up there, looking very much like someone who's in the depths of cocaine.
And funnily enough, sounded like he had some severe allergies that night. He was
Yep.
very
Sniffly,
sniffly.
yeah.
I was about to say syphilitic.
He
He's
might
probably
be
got that
too.
too. But I remember that one of the reasons, and again, Jess, you're seeing behind the curtain a bit here. One of the reasons he initially went to the North Queensland Cowboys was, of course, he's a Kiwi. He's from
Yep.
New Zealand, born and bred in New Zealand, raised in New Zealand, lived most of his early life in New Zealand, had to leave New Zealand to go to the Cowboys. Because he was running with a bad crowd.
Hello.
They were leading him astray.
I see.
And if he'd stayed in New Zealand, he might have got in a bit of trouble.
I see.
So who would have thought that if you take a troublemaker, send him to a place where he is paid a lot of money and treated as a hero,
Yes.
as essentially a god.
Someone they went after very, very strongly.
They went after
said,
very
they
strongly.
said, "Come here and win premierships."
Yeah, and who would have thought that if you take someone like that, give him a bunch of money and a big public profile, that things would go wrong?
he would become maybe the leader of the bad crowds.
Yes.
Attract other people into his bad crowd.
Oh,
But-
but yeah, no, of course, the
but
Sydney Roosters and then no dickheads policy.
Also, junior rugby league players in Australia now being shipped to New Zealand.
Of
to
course,
avoid
yeah, doing the-
Brendan Smith's bad.
avoid the bad crowd. It's the bad crowd cycle, which Brandon Smith, the Cheese, seems to be part of. Look, it wasn't the fact that apparently he's upset the apple cart at the Roosters, and it wasn't apparently the fact that he was on video, on live stream, looking very much like he was engaging in some extracurricular activities.
Which is funny because he did previously get banned
For also
displaying extracurricular activities on the camera phone while
camera.
not doing them.
No, yes, yeah.
He didn't do the drugs that were on the plate next to him while he was on camera.
But the Rooster
they
said,
were there.
The Rooster said that's fine. The money's fine. Everything's fine. Oh, but you've missed a meeting, so we're going to give you a strike against your contract. So you're not fulfilling your contract. Now he's been dropped for this this week.
Yeah.
There's the questions whether he's going to still be there. Apparently he's engaged in his in a contract when you've got an option to say that he wants to stick around, and they say we don't want you around. We're going to try to push you out the door. So it's very interesting to see what you do with a player like Brandon Smith. And
Aren't rugby league players just
unfortunately,
fucking idiots?
He's talented enough. He's going to end up
God
somewhere else.
damn it.
He's
I,
just gonna-
I love the game of rugby league. I think it's wonderful. There's so many
Yeah.
amazing people in the game.
It's just-
when it comes to players, officials, administrators, the family member, the woman who runs the canteen. There are so many incredible people.
Yes.
But god damn it has a high percentage, like a high ratio of just
Dickheads.
morons.
Yeah.
Morons and dickheads and shit blokes.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them.
honestly embarrasses me at times.
It only takes
really, really embarrasses me at times.
It only takes a bit of sand to ruin a half a glass of water. But if we look at to the game that we watched together at the Wickham Park Hotel, Liam, State of Origin, Game 1, we must touch on it.
Oh, we lost game 1, but there's a second game.
There's a second game.
Oh, yes.
But it's in Melbourne. So we lost the
Better
Sydney
than
one.
Sydney. I don't like
But
Sydney.
for a while, I think Billy Slater had lost the previous 2 in Sydney. He was unwinded in Sydney.
De-winded?
De-winded. He was de-winded in Sydney. But until that game where they won 38-10. Not an ideal situation there. It's something that has been spoken about ad nauseum.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can really add to the conversation at this point.
To the fact that
that was a whole week ago. And, the news cycle's really moved on.
There's a player that you know who we're talking about. His name was Joseph, and then he hit a player.
He did a whoopsie.
Joseph hit.
He did a whoopsie.
Joseph hit Reese. Reese got hurt, and then
New South Wales
was sent
lose.
off. Yeah.
And I think everything that could be said about State of Origin Game 1 has been said by people much smarter than us.
Unwinnable at that point once he got sent off, even though we did score the next try, but I think that was just...
And there were signs of life. There were signs of hope. There was Liam Martin murdering people. There was Zach Lomax doing good things. There was things to like from a 12-man team for 73 minutes, I think?
Something like that.
So,
Zach Lomax, very like a lot of people said, is he an Origin player? I don't think he could survive out there. Excelled.
Get a load of that elbow.
Excelled.
Yeah, that is
Massive elbow.
Is that
there
an AI elbow?
Yeah, it might be.
I think it's an AI elbow. Yeah.
And
although Tedesco had a pretty good revenge game.
Pretty good.
He said you picked that small town scrub ahead of me.
Yeah.
I'm going to score a try.
We got to look forward to game 2, Liam. Now, of course, Joseph Swiley is out for 4 weeks.
He'll never be seen in the sky blue of New South Wales again until he goes to the New South Wales Waratahs. He'll be wearing it every week.
Sky blue. And then the 2 questions, I suppose, ask do you bring Edwards in for Tedesco?
I don't think so. After Tedesco's performance and showing that he is the New South Wales Blues fullback for a reason, I think you got to keep him. He needs to finish his career on his own terms in the New South Wales Sky Blue jersey.
Now the question:
if there's any player of the last decade
Yes.
who deserves to go out on his own terms in the New South Wales Sky Blue jersey, he's the man, James Tedesco. I say keep him.
The question is also, do we... now, we've got a centre position opened up. There's obviously Latrell Mitchell going for it. Bradman Best is also going to have an opportunity to audition for it against Penrith Panthers.
That is a salacious discussion to be had.
And, of course,
Latrell Bradman Best or Matt Burton, perhaps. Now, this... we said we weren't going to talk much about Origin because everyone already has, but here's something to be discussed. Didn't we discuss that the lack of having a back utility on the bench would hurt?
Yes.
Is that now the impetus to bring Matt Burton into the number 17 jersey?
Yep.
Just so we've got cover, because he can cover the halves, he can cover the centers. Hell, put him on the wing.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But
I think he's big enough that you can put him in lock.
Yeah.
And I think he's definitely not a small 6.
But then at the same
or
time,
a small centre.
does one loss warrant a complete restructuring of the squad of the team? Do we tear it apart to rebuild? Because it is only a 3-game series.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
I think you have to bring Latrell into the centres. I think that's a must.
He played wonderfully on the weekend.
And I think he's played wonderfully.
He's an Origin man.
Yeah. You put him in the centres.
Yeah.
And then you bring Matt Burton into the bench. And I think he has to be there just
And then
for
you
cover.
put Bradman at lock.
Bradman.
Bradman Best at lock. Wouldn't that be a sight to see?
I think Bradman still misses out on my team for game 2.
I know. I was going to put him in, but I was thinking Latrell. I wanted Latrell. You sold me.
I'm a big Latrell fan.
Bring Latrell back. I love him.
Look, there's a couple of there's an interesting stat about Latrell. Every series that he's participated in, New South Wales have won that series.
That is a wonderful stat.
And the New South Wales has not won a series since Latrell has last played.
Oh, that's also a good stat. Good stats there.
yeah.
Do we see the Nico Hines of it all? Now, Mitchell Pearce was given 400 chances to prove that he was New South Wales' best halfback. 399 of those chances he wasn't. And all of a sudden, Nico has one game where he starts. Doesn't have a great game, let's be quite honest. I think that's fair to say. Does he get the crook already?
I think so.
It's one game.
Well, that's the
he gave Mitchell Pearce 400.
Well, I think we love Mitchells.
We
love Johns, Jacks, and Mitchells. And I think Moses comes in as more of your... I guess you could say more of your structured running 7. And I think...
if it's Mitchell Moses, I would see him back. Like you said, he's a more structured 7. I think that suits Luai.
Yeah.
Or do you upset the apple cart entirely?
And drop Luai.
Hines. No, you don't. You can't.
He
do
was
it
too
live.
good.
Yeah,
He was
no,
actually quite
yeah.
good.
I'd be happy to see.
Who was your upsetting the apple cart?
Well, that was going to be dropping Luai and having
Okay,
Nico in there.
so I just said it.
Yeah.
Of course, Madge has got a big pressure game here, assuming that we can't win in Game 3 in Queensland, which we have done before if we've been 2 games down, but we can't win a decider there. So he's staring down the barrel of, is he a one-term coach? You know, losing 3 in a row is never a good thing for it's never great.
Now, just quickly, Joust, before we go, we've used the term upset the apple cart number of times during this episode.
Yeah.
Why?
yeah. Why does the apple cart have to be so friendly?
Like, what was so terrible about spilling an apple out of the apple cart? And
Maybe
it
it's
became.
because like if you're at the fruit shop and then you're like, I'll have this apple, and then the rest of the apples fall.
But that's not a cart.
That's not the
That's
cart.
shelving.
You've upset the apple shelf.
Yeah.
I think that's
Like, surely it'd be worse if you'd upset the beer cart because the beer would go over. Or you upset the egg cart because the eggs would break and go over. An apple, if it falls on the ground, it gets a bruise. You put it back in the cart. It's fine.
That's right.
Or is it because if one bad apple ruins the batch?
Potentially.
And then that batch, if it's ruined, it ruins the apple cart.
It's upset.
Oh, God.
I just don't want to upset the fruiterer.
Oh,
because
you
he's
hate to upset the fruiterer.
He's the one that's controlling all the apples and all the fruit. Of course. You don't want to upset the apple cart.
No.
Which is apparently something
just,
you got to be very, very considerate of the apple cart's feelings.
Yeah.
In saying that, Joust, we're very considerate of your feelings, and we would like you to continue watching us here at the Joust. And
at the Wickham Park Hotel.
And you can do that at the Wickham Park Hotel during most of the NRL games that we are there to watch and love. But otherwise, you can watch us on these social pipes. Liam, what are those social pipes?
Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, Apple Tunes, YouTube, TikTok, SoundCloud.
We're on them all.
We're on them all.
And we look forward to watching. We look forward to watching the game.
We're going to do a reverse podcast. We're going to watch you guys jousters.
Turn on your cameras. It'll be like a Zoom. But we can look forward to watching us potentially talking about a win against the 3-time premiers, the Penrith Panthers, next week, and it'll be very exciting. We'll see you there.